What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Smoking That Ish. I am your host, Martimus. As always, shout out to D Game Podcast Studios and D Game 6923 on YouTube. Today, we are going to be talking about the cartels and wrapping up the National Drug Threat Assessment by the DEA. And the cartels I'm afraid this is going to go on for two, maybe three episodes because these guys are crazy and might be getting scapegoated by the DEA a little bit on the whole responsible for the opioid crisis thing. We've also got a new inductee to the Hall of Fame, which would make it only, I think, our third of this season. So that's coming up on this episode. And more on the real cause of the opioid crisis, plus what strains are selling fast, and of course, the goodies. This and more coming up on Smoking That Ish. No intro song yet, so there we go. The goodies. I'm going to start out with the goodies today because I just think like that would be the best. I went to Superior Buds in Mitchell because we were on a tight schedule. We didn't have time to shop around today. L.A. Kush from Belushi's Farm is sold out. And the skunk piss, $99 ounces from DNG, will probably be gone by the time you see this podcast. But if not, definitely go check it out. And I have an eighth of skunk piss here to check out on the show. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Smoking That Ish Part 2. And here we go with the goodies. I got a Mac 1 pre-roll from Bad River Farms. It was 18.15% THC and 0.036% CBD. It smells really citrus-y. You know, it smelled a lot like citrus. It was rolled a little bit loose, but that's better than being rolled too tight. It was sweet, and on the inhale, it was very sweet and buttery. Almost tasted like butter, maybe caramel something on the exhale with a nice mouth coat, and it hit great. Had a nice medium high, which I found would be good for creativity or daydreaming for me personally. It really made me spacey, kind of. And then I got a Moonbow 112 pre-roll from Bad River Farms. It was 20.73% THC and 0.042% CBD. It smelled sweet and chemi, like almost like a floor cleaner, like a lemon pine sol or pledge. But sweeter with less lemon, like less citrus on it. It was packed perfectly. It smoked nice, but nothing about it really stood out. There was no real wow. It was kind of a sweet mixed bag with a flavor I couldn't really put my finger on. Had a nice mellow high though. It was really good. Flamin' Hot Cheetos from Pure Bliss. Flamin' Hot Cheetos, it has a 26.08% THC content. It's in a bag, so boo, that sucks. I'm not a huge fan. It smells strong and chemi. God, open you damned bag. Another reason bags suck, dude. Just for fuck's sake. Yeah, strong and chemi. It reminds me of like on the back end almost of like walking into a hotel room, like a hotel pool room, you know, where the pool is like chlorine and chemi. With a little bit of sweetness on the back end, kind of almost I don't know, really chemi. And they're dusty, little popcorn nugs. They look super dusty. Definitely going to be a big Keef producer. Excuse me. slightly smashed nugs from being in a bag, which really takes away from the visual appeal. Please, for the love of God, will you all stop using bags, whoever is still using bags? Please, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Skunk piss from Dakota Natural Growers. What is that? Get you right here. Dakota Natural Growers skunk piss, dude. This is from skunk piss from Dakota Natural Growers. It's 17.35% THC. It smells earthy and sweet on the back end. It's frosty and big nugs in there. It's frosty and dusty with beautiful trichomes and it's got the long red hairs coming off of it, making the visual appeal like off the charts. Very, very nice. And jars, people. Jars. See? Jars. They don't have to be glass. These ones are, but they don't have to be. They could be plastic and have the same effect, man. So for $99 a zip, $99 an ounce, it's an absolute steal from DNG, doing something big for the customer right there. Bravo, you guys. I know you don't follow, but whatever. I don't give a shit. I feel like we covered everything last episode on the National Drug Threat Assessment, pretty much, except for the cartels, who are the scapegoats of the DEA for their involvement in the opioid crisis, at the very least, somewhat, you know? But we all know that the pharmaceutical companies are the real bad guys here. They used doctors in the 90s to turn people who would never have touched illegal drugs in any way, and they turned them into addicts by telling them all the good things that it would do and sharing with them none of the side effects, or that it was extremely addictive and that their dosages would have to increase astronomically over time. So, I'm going to do something that I don't think I've ever done here on the show before, but I want you to pause this episode right now if you can, if you're able to, and go watch a different video on YouTube. It's a little bit over 7 minutes, so if you don't feel like it, that's fine. You'll still get the gist of what's going on here. It's called Oxycontin Patients Then and Now. The channel it's on is Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. I think it was posted like 11 years ago. Go ahead and watch it. I'll wait. All right, since I was paused, I don't really actually have to wait. The first thing it says in that video, if you even just like hang over the thumbnail of it, the first thing it says is that 15,000 doctors in 1998 were given that promotional video, which some of you watched parts of it, minus the later parts that talking about how bad it was and how bad it hurt people, how some of them died. And the video only showed Oxycontin helping people and didn't show its dangers at all. And that was given to doctors to help get them to prescribe more Oxycontin to people for pain. And Oxycontin does have its place. Like, it is a needed drug for people with chronic pain or like rheumatoid arthritis, things like that. It is needed for some people just to live day to day. But it was prescribed at quadruple the rate. And yeah, we covered a lot of it on the last episode. Why do we allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise to doctors? First off, why is that allowed? Why are doctors allowed to hold stock in pharmaceutical companies? Isn't that conflict of interest? I know that pharmaceutical reps go around and they use like slick talk and sales techniques to try and sell drugs to doctors to prescribe to their patients, which is wrong. But I never knew they gave out promotional flipping videos, dude. They probably do whole PowerPoint presentations and run sales pitches just like big advertisement firms. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's probably ridiculous. Take a bunch of doctors into a dark room. Hey, watch this PowerPoint slide on all the benefits of this drug that I'm then going to sell you and allow you to buy stock in. Go nuts. Get on that. The doctors hooked the people in the 90s, bringing the drug crisis into richer, more well-to-do neighborhoods and turning people into drug addicts that they couldn't reach before. Then they slowly cut off the supply to the patients after years of upping the dosage and making sure they were really hooked. Cut off their supply, and then the patients turned to the streets to buy pills illegally off the streets. Some have no choice but to turn to heroin. And now you have drug addiction in almost every family, in every state, in every neighborhood in the entire country. Almost every family in the United States is affected by drugs in some way. Now we take the pills away and complain about the addicts that, they created. So they can come out with pills to treat the addiction and, help people that fund, that have, wow, I'm really sticking my foot in my mouth today, but have people that help fund political campaigns, from starting campaigns funded to fight the addiction. And those companies are funded by the families of the people you addicted in the first place who simply want the addiction to stop. And it just goes on and on and on and on. But that's kind of getting conspiracy theory-ish a little bit there. So now they need a scapegoat. Someone to blame for this terrible crisis destroying our countries. Can't be the pharmaceutical companies. They literally fund every politician that's in office. So it can't be them. It has to be somebody else. Enter the cartels. The DEA, according to this stuff is according to the DEA. They say that the Sinaloa and Jalisco, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, cartels, I'm going to destroy so many Spanish words, are responsible for the opioid crisis that has swept across America. And most cartels are named for the state, town, or region that they either control or started out in. They are considered transnational criminal organizations. The cartels have global supply chain networks, which they use to receive chemicals and ship drugs, among any other crime you can possibly imagine. Chinese criminal organizations are also to blame for assisting the cartels in acquiring chemicals and pill presses, money laundering through underground Chinese banking systems, and many, 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 many other crimes. The cartels also poach animals to sell to China, and Chinese organized crime groups also grow illegal cannabis in the U.S. Plus, Chinese nationals are being arrested more and more in the U.S. and abroad for drug trafficking and money laundering. The cartels even go so far as to steal petroleum and ore from their state-owned Mexican fuel company, Pemex, who lost $730 million to illegal pipeline taps in the first 9 months of 2022 alone, dude. The cartels are the main suppliers of cocaine and heroin to the U.S., among many, many other drugs. They are in every state in the United States, in case you were wondering, to some degree. And they are also in Asia, Africa, Australia, South America, Europe, countries like Japan, New Zealand. Japan and Australia, fun fact, are currently the most profitable markets for illegal drugs, with the highest demand. So people paying the most in Japan and Australia for illegal drugs. The cartels operate in over 47 countries worldwide. Some even control entire ports in Mexico for drug trafficking. Here's two that the Sinaloa cartel currently control. They control the port of Mazatian on the Pacific coast of the Sinaloa region, or Mazatlan, on the Pacific coast of the Sinaloa region of Mexico, and the port of Manzanillo, also on the Pacific coast, just south of the Iecburg cartel's stronghold. Owning ports or the like, points of entry, border area, shit like that. Owning ports or the like allows cartels to charge pesos, P-I-S-O, or extortion payments to other cartels and businesses that want to use those ports. The labs in Mexico manufacture the drugs, according to the DEA, which are then smuggled into the U.S. The cartels have started using messaging apps and social media to advertise and sell their drugs, making them much more difficult to catch and combat. They use emojis, numbers, and other coded language. They even post pics and prices on some of these apps to help sell their drugs. The DEA still thinks they can take the cartels down by themselves, but I think that would almost take a global military effort at this point. Although the DEA, they have access to our special forces and our government and everything. So, they probably could if they got enough funding and enough reason to. The DEA has 30 field divisions, 241 domestic offices, 93 foreign offices in 69 countries, and 9 forensic labs. Not sure what that all means, and control of our use of our special forces, etc. Each cartel is more powerful than most countries, both financially and militarily. They are extremely, extremely powerful. They're even getting into stocks and bonds, trading on the stock market and cryptocurrency. So they're in it, dude. Now let's talk about some of the weaponry that we have been seeing from the cartels. They buy what they can. They buy what they can, and they build what they need. So built guns are called PMFs, or ghost guns, and that PMF stands for personally made firearms, and are super illegal for the most part. I'm sure there's a process you can go through and buy registered parts and, etc. But these guys don't do that. So the cartels will even go so far, if they can't find a part, they have even been known to use 3D printers to make the parts they need for their weapons. So there's not a lot you can do to disarm them. PMFs account for 10% of the firearms seized in the U.S. and Mexico. Seizures of weapons, according to the ATF, seizures of weapons in the U.S. have increased 31% since 2021, with most of those coming from California. So California, with all your extra rules and laws and heavy taxes, you're getting most of the weapons, so that's going to be a good time. They also buy MCDs, or machine gun conversion devices. I think you guys missed a letter in shortening that. Also known as auto sears or chips, quote unquote chips. These convert semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic weapons, which is once again super illegal. These guys don't really give a shit about legal or not legal. The ATF has traced 180% more MCDs since 2021. And the DEA has launched 3 counter threat teams, as well as a number of operations to try and battle these super evil cartels, such as Operation Last Mile, which tracked distribution efforts by the cartels in the U.S. and confirmed the cartels use street gangs and groups to flood the U.S. market with synthetic drugs, as well as social media and messaging apps. And I'm just going to name off a few. There's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Wire, and Wicker, just to name a few of them. Operation Last Mile consisted of 1,436 investigations, resulting in 3,337 arrests, 44 million fentanyl pills seized, as well as 6,500 pounds of fentanyl powder. That's 3.25 tons. 91,000 pounds of methamphetamine, which is 45.5 tons. And that right there is enough drugs to kill right around 250,000 people, 250,000 people. 8,497 firearms and $100 million. The Houston Violent Crime Initiative, which is part of a nationwide DEA and multiple agency U.S. Department of Justice Criminal Division program, say that 5 times fast. In September 2023, they conducted a gang investigation which resulted in 248 kilos of methamphetamine being seized. A kilo is about 2.2 pounds, by the way, in case you need the amount in pounds. Pills containing both meth and fentanyl, which is super dangerous to mix uppers and downers. That can stop your heart. Killed John Belushi, Chris Farley. They found heroin, cocaine, PCP, which is also known as angel dust, 4 pill presses, so them's definitely getting in the country, $110,000, and 79 firearms, 3 of which had MCDs and 3 of the others being PMFs. A silencer, a hand grenade, and body armor, for Christ's sakes. So a hand grenade, body armor, silencer. They're basically a video game at this point. Operation Overdrive targeted dealers in violence and drug overdose plagued cities through February to July of 2023. They arrested 1,200 drug dealers, 50% of which were gang members, and revealed that the Iecburg cartel were supplying drugs to the Blood Street Gang in Durham, North Carolina. There were 547 fentanyl seizures, 40% of which was mixed with xylazine, which made it trank. And then there was also Operation OD Justice. I don't know if I covered some of these in previous episodes, but I'm just balling them all up. Operation OD Justice provides funds to help prosecute those responsible for selling drugs that result in an overdose. Now, I'm okay with this if the drugs are laced or if the drugs were not what they were advertised to be, but people still have the freedom of choice, even when they're addicts. We still got to have the freedom of choice. They chose to take the drugs. If they took the drug that they knew what it was and they killed themselves on it, well, that was their choice. You shouldn't punish somebody for that. But if it was laced or not the drug they thought they were doing, then yeah, that person should be directly responsible. This operation also provides training to help deal with overdoses and help save lives. They have created fentanyl OD response teams in some areas. They have 22 offices which provide support and the help of an OD response coordinator, which really just seems to me like more bureaucracy than solution, you know? A lot of paperwork and bullshit when you could just be in there solving the fucking problems, but they are doing some good things, I guess. And they are this operation also is trying to find ways to treat opioid use disorder. That's right, it's not just opioid addiction anymore. They have made it a disorder. I still think it's opioid addiction, but if they give it a name, then they can now prescribe you drugs for it, huh? Prescribe you something to treat that addiction they prescribed you something to give you. Huh? And that brings us full circle to how all this shit started. So, in summarization, I feel like the cartels are definitely a problem that needs to be dealt with. But are they solely or even mostly to blame for the opioid crisis? I don't think so. I feel like a lot of this was, a lot of this was pushed on us by the pharmaceutical companies, which basically turned our loved ones into junkies and then blamed us for them becoming junkies, and then now is going to give us more pills to help treat the addiction, and no one is mad at them. They're now they have the DEA pointing the finger at the cartels for starting the opioid crisis when they simply provided the drugs that we so desperately wanted. And then when sales dipped, they started doing things like adding fentanyl to their shit, which backfired ridiculously, led to a ton of ODs, killed a lot of famous people, which was a big fuck up on their end. And now the U.S. government is going to end up bringing down the hammer because Mexico's not going to be able to handle this by themselves, and we're going to have to demand that they do something. So, I don't know. A boycott would be good if we boycott China and Mexico boycott their products until they would, do something about these organizations that are just running amok in their countries. And then if they can't, well, then they can ask us for help and give us permission to go in and do what needs to be done. And I think that is going to be the long road out of this. I think that's eventually what's going to happen, because Mexico has already shown that they can't handle the cartels. And mind you, these cartels were poor peasants who started out smuggling small amounts of poppy and marijuana in the 60s and 70s and grew into empires resembling the corporate empires of America. And join me next time when we dive into the history of the cartels. It's going to get wild. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get bloody. And it's going to get deep. Thanks for smoking that ish.